Good evening, folks. It is that weekend, the biggest weekend of the year in professional wrestling, so to speak. So we have a lot to cover tonight here on the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. We will get into so much stuff. We'll kick things off with obviously WrestleMania because it is WrestleMania weekend in Las Vegas. We'll talk about two big nights of action, what's going down, what's got our attention, what we think may or may not happen, and all that good stuff. And from there, we got a lot more to get into. We got an NXT Stand and Deliver show. We got the WWE Hall of Fame. There's all kinds of other shows going on. I just saw Butterbean try to have a match with Minoru Suzuki out in Vegas. So anything and anything can be happening out in Las Vegas this weekend, folks. Buckle in, get ready. Your Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast starts right now.
Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for being with us here tonight on the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. Season 5, Episode 11 for our big show of the year, our WrestleMania preview, as we are days away, I guess 48 hours now that WrestleMania is a 2-day event and starts on Saturday. So it is coming in quick. A lot going on this weekend for the biggest weekend of the year in professional wrestling out in Las Vegas. I know there's a lot of people out there right now already. I'm not sure if our guy Damian G is out there already, but he is definitely making the trek out to check out some of the indie shows, as he was telling us last week. So he may or may not be there as of yet. But if you are out there checking in right now, we hope you're having a good time. If you're about to travel there and we're in your ears while you're in flight or traveling on your way to Vegas, I get that too. So a big weekend ahead for folks. So I'm in the center of your screen. I am Will. To my left is the returning Silly Celis. Glad to have you back, Celis. And to my right, the giant crab, Jamal. Gentlemen, how are we doing as the big weekend is here? We've been talking about this for months, waiting for this show. And here we go. We're finally here at the end of the road to WrestleMania. Celis, you've been gone for a few weeks. So what's your vibe as we go into this?
It's like I'm bittersweet because, for those that may have not known, I had relocated homes. That was the reason why I was off for a couple of weeks and getting that taken care of. But if I didn't relocate my home, I might have been at WrestleMania if I wanted to pay those prices. But it's still an exciting time based on how bookings have been going the last 6 weeks. So I'm definitely ready to talk about it.
Okay, all right. Before we get into stuff, Crab, I'll hit you with the same thing. Now that we're here, months of build, months of waiting for this, months of us talking about this every week. Where are you on the scale? How are you feeling going into this weekend?
Okay. The long and short of it is that it's always going to come down to one of two things for me.
Mm-hmm.
Are the Mets playing? Are they playing during a WrestleMania show?
Is it a night game this weekend?
Actually, on Saturday they play at 4:00. So,
perfect timing.
Kind of works out.
No extra innings, huh?
Well, I mean, it's baseball. It can go all night long. But still, the point is that I think that this WrestleMania has been up and down. Of course, everybody has their opinion about the way the show was booked. Personally, I haven't really cared about the WrestleMania event in many years. It's really been about the ancillary events that are happening. If you're out there in Vegas, or if you have been are going to Vegas and you want to see everything, you should have been out there since Tuesday.
Yeah,
because that's when the first WrestleMania events were happening. So it's really more about that. And honestly, between GCW hosting a WWE official event is crazy. The brunch time NXT show is kind of crazy. We got midget wrestling, we got lucha libre wrestling, a bunch of indie stuff from the Midwest, the Plain States. Colorado is being represented big. There isn't a part of the collective. There is a couple of other different things that are going on. Dragon Gate is having a show. We're going to cover so much more than WWE, but the point is that there's so much more than WWE happening. Evil versus Michael Oku in Defy Wrestling show out there in Vegas. That happened earlier today at 11 a.m. Pacific time. You know, these are the things. You know, these are the things that I want to see. And there's so much stuff happening, so many like dream matches in a lot of way that, yeah, it's a big deal for these reasons. And then, of course, there is the other stuff that's going on with WWE, and you know, we'll obviously talk about that later too.
There you go. All right, yes, we will definitely be getting into more than just WrestleMania tonight in the second half of the show because, like Crab said, there is a lot going on in Vegas, so you got a lot to choose from. There's definitely folks that go out for the trip and don't even bother with the big show and just watch it on at a bar or something and just hit up all the surrounding stuff. So I get it. There is a lot happening. Let's talk about the big show, though, because, hell, we've been talking about it for months. So we're here. 2 nights of WrestleMania coming up this Saturday and Sunday from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. So let's look at night 1 first. I'll do a quick rundown of the card that we know at this point for both of the nights. Then we can talk about what jumps out at us as we normally do. We don't like doing that every damn match shit. We don't need to talk about everything. So let's run down night 1. Okay, we have actually we know most of it because last week on SmackDown they said this is what we're going to be getting on each night. So this should be official. Gunther versus Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight title on night 1. The War Raiders versus the New Day for the World Tag Team titles. We have Rey Mysterio Jr. versus El Grande Americano. We have Jade Cargill versus Naomi. LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu for the United States Championship. Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair for the women's title in a match that we talked extensively about last week. And the main event of night 1, Roman Reigns and CM Punk and Seth Rollins in a triple threat with, of course, Paul Heyman kind of hanging in the balance as like the wild card thing out there. That's night 1. So we'll talk about night 1 first before we get into night 2. Sell it. Go to you first. We got 7 matches there. What's jumping out at you the most?
So 2 things are jumping out to me the most. First, I am hopeful, and I'm taking a shade back to WrestleMania 27, which was my first WrestleMania, with that one where Alberto Del Rio and Edge opened up the match, and people were kind of questioning that of how you had a world title match opening the show. But I think what we need to see is Jey Uso and Gunther open up night 1 for WrestleMania. And when you think about the epic pop and entry that you can have with Jey Uso maybe coming out first, that could bring just a fire atmosphere to the match. I think this is the time where if you book it correctly, this is where Jey Uso can finally stop chasing and get his crown that he's been working for since COVID times of main event Jey Uso. I'm just really interested to see how they'll book it. I know they had a great match on Saturday night's main event a couple of months ago, but this should be different where if it's on the spectacle of what needs to be of WrestleMania, the grand of the show, I really would love to see Jey go over. It's going to be interesting to see if Jimmy gets involved in some way, somehow within this match, but I am very looking forward to this, hoping if it opens the show. But my match of the night for night 1 might surprise some people. I'm really interested in Jade Cargill versus Naomi. And the work that Naomi has been doing as a bona fide heel has been some of the best work that we've seen from her probably in her whole career. And I don't even care if she wins or loses, but if she puts on a show where she's a legitimate top heel that can maybe lean into Money in the Bank season, I got my high hopes on Naomi, what she can do, and possibly later down the line have a Naomi versus Bianca for the title maybe, but we'll see. Or maybe come back to a triple threat with Jade Cargill again. But I'm very interested to see what Naomi does as my potential match of the night for night 1 against Jade Cargill.
Okay. Crab, let me go to you. We got 7 matches there. What's jumping out at you?
Well, the only match I'm interested in is Jade versus Naomi.
Okay.
For a lot of the reasons that Stella just mentioned. However, I will say that Ray Jr. versus El Grande Americano, who
could that be? Who is that?
I mean, the fact that he's not out there in a giant coffee cup is beyond me. But that match should be fun because those 2 guys are good guys. Like, they're just good talent to watch work. I think that a match that's kind of like not necessarily underrated in the sense that, hey, don't sleep on this match, but underrated it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. Because the New Day is treading water. I mean, they are in full bucket mode right now. The ship is sinking, and obviously in a way that was really surprising. The New Day went heel. Nothing happened after that. They're facing the War Raiders in a match that nobody cares about. So it will be interesting to see what happens, because someone's got to leave with the belt. And this is the thing where, for the first time in a very long time, the New Day needs a win.
Mm-hmm.
But if they do you give the New Day the belt now in a part in their career where nobody really gives a shit? And then if you do that, what happens to the War Raiders? What steam do they lose by giving up the title? Where do they go from there? So I think that match is intriguing for all of the wrong reasons. But yeah, the only match like by the book as far as like what is sizzle is Jade versus Naomi. Now the question I got to ask you, Will, is 7 matches.
Mm-hmm.
Is that enough?
It depends how much they load the show up with the breaks. Lord knows how they like. Some of these shows are more padded than others with the advertising from Peacock and all that. So it's going to depend how the show flows. My initial feeling, I think, is, and looking ahead to night 2, there's 6 listed, but there should be a 7th, and we'll get into that in a bit. So I'm guessing they're doing 7 and 7 each night, and who knows, got some special segments in there. I'm thinking probably, because I'm guessing they're probably looking at about 4 hours each night, probably.
Agreed.
They're talking
Agreed.
8 to midnight is probably the time frame they're looking at. So, actually, no, they start at 7.
7,
so,
yep.
7 to 11 is probably what they're trying to buy. 7 to 11, 11. They probably will be done by 11:30 at the latest each night. So, yeah, I mean, with it being 2 nights, I don't think they need to overdo it. So, 7, I think that's about what they did last year. And I don't remember. I remember last year feeling like the length was good. I didn't feel like it was too long. I didn't feel like it was too short, especially with 2 nights. So I'm good. I'm good with what I'm seeing.
WrestleMania is kind of the only show where you're supposed to overstuff it, because it's WrestleMania. I mean, they've built they built their entire legacy on, it's too much show. Okay, well, it's 2 nights. It's still too much show because of, whatever. And I just feel that like 13 matches, I feel that that's at least 13 matches on paper right now, probably 14. That seems like a show that they would have done in one night a few years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. They absolutely would have stretched it and like have it go close to 1 a.m.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah. Especially they're out west too, so they can, they won't lose the crowd by it not being 1 a.m. It'll be 1 a.m. here, 10 p.m. out there.
That is true. The time zone does work in their favor.
It does.
The comment on what you guys were saying, I agree about the New Day. That darn turn has really fallen flat since it happened. It hasn't felt like there's been any meat to it yet. And so, I mean, if I'm looking at this, I'm like, they need that title win. They need that title win. They need something to kick some spice into this. I think it's just a matter of whether you do it here or you do an angle here and you hold it off for a month and maybe do it at Backlash. I don't know, but they need something desperately. I'm in agreement with you guys on that the New Day definitely needs a spark. And this is probably the place to do it.
Does Big E return?
To do what?
Ooh.
But hear you out. He doesn't need to do much. He can come out during the middle of the match, maybe do one physical spot for a pop. I don't know what that could be. It could be a chair shot. It doesn't have to be anything where he's wrestling per se, but does he make a mark to bring back what happened when the New Day went full heel?
Yeah, we haven't seen him since. So if there's...
Is he clear for any activity?
That part, I don't know.
Hasn't been said.
Yeah.
I mean, we're around that. The last time he gave an update, he was saying, because this is around the 2-year mark now, that he was going to be going in and getting checked again, and then see, where he stood. Because he's definitely out and like doing stuff. It's like not like he can't do anything, but it's a matter of being cleared for the ring is a totally, different deal than being cleared for normal activity.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like nobody's saying 100%. It's a matter of what is he able to do once you step into the ring. What will Vegas allow him to do?
Mhm.
Right.
So there's that. And then of course, what do they need him to do? Yes, sure, maybe Big E coming out and costing into the match is one thing, or helping them win is another thing. But no matter what he does, do we care going forward? And that's kind of where like the crux of the argument for me is, if New Day wins and War Raiders go to the back of the line, that doesn't do anything for the New Day per se. And of course, the War Raiders get to go to the back of the line. It arguably hurts them more, the War Raiders, by losing the belt. But is that a justifiable thing to do? Sure, the New Day will win the title at some point in time because, whatever, tag team. But does it have to be now? Or
I don't think it has to be now.
Or does it winning at WrestleMania do more for the War Raiders? Not necessarily because they're the incumbent champion, but just because of the fact that I don't want to say they don't deserve, the New Day doesn't deserve a title, because that's, it's not a meritocracy, it's wrestling. But damn, is this their trajectory like sank? I mean, their stock is tanking.
But I think part of that has to do with there's really no tag teams that's legitimate, especially on the Raw side. And I even thought about this. I was like, they're not going to do another draft after WrestleMania because they just finished the transfer window. I think when Raw went to Netflix earlier this year, it's like, I don't know if they got to call up NXT tag teams to see if they can compete with the New Day on Raw. It's just that division has not been spotlighted on the Raw brand like it could have been compared to what's going on SmackDown.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah,
They
fair
need
enough.
to do some work on that tag scene on Mondays for sure. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Let me talk about the rest of this. So, Gunther and Jey Uso, you brought up opening the show.
Yep.
A lot of people have brought that up. I think that's absolutely the move too. Start the show hot. That'll be a big match. Lord knows the crowd will be into it in Vegas. So I would do that, and I wouldn't have it go long. I'd have it be a short, impactful match, and just have the crowd into it and kick off the show with a bang.
Yep.
I'm assuming Jay's going to get his revenge. Jay will get his win, and we'll have the big yeet party to kind of kick things off, and that'll be what it is.
Yep.
Since no one brought it up, okay, we brought up Jade and Naomi. Yes, I think that's a very intriguing match. Very excited for that one. I talked a lot last week with Damian about Tiffany and Charlotte is so much of a mess now that I just want to see how much of a train wreck it's going to be. That's what I'm curious about with that match is, how the hell are those two going to suddenly pull a rabbit out of their hat? Is it going to go off the damn rails? It's an absolute wild card what that match is going to be. Just as far as like, how are they going to mesh in the ring? Are they just going to not be on the same page like they've been in all these damn promos? I don't know, but it's so much of a mess now that I'm intrigued by it.
I'll say this just to add to it. I think at first when Charlotte won the Royal Rumble, I was like, it's no question she's going to win. I think at this point now, to save the credibility of Tiffany, you need to have her win. Charlotte doesn't need this win, even though there's things such like death and taxes. You can't cheat Charlotte getting the title shot and winning. That's something that's going to happen. But I think if it's a mess where even if it ends in a DQ, where it continues on this same program later down the line, I'll take that, whatever you need to do to keep Tiffany with the belt.
Okay.
You know what this? I mean, if this placement is accurate that you've been reading, Will, LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu for the U.S. Championship is your match. Before that, the main event of the Triple Threat is your match after that. This match screams bathroom break.
It's the old days. They used to put the women on right before the main event.
Yeah. Because nobody's arguing, because if this is accurate, what you're reading, Gunther versus Jay to start the show hot. It cools down a bit with the New Day versus the War Raiders.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. A fun match, a little bit of a palate cleanser, but a fun match between Ray Jr. and El Grande Americano, the Starbucks champion. And Jade versus Naomi and their blood feud. Okay, kicking it up a notch.
Yep.
A championship match, LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu. Okay, we're kicking it up a notch. Tiffany versus Charlotte.
Yeah.
Right.
There's really nowhere else to put it, I think.
Well, I think you definitely, really, the question is, You say there's nowhere else to put it. Does it belong on night one?
Well,
Because,
then I think
to your point, there's nowhere else to put it.
You'd have to flip the women's title matches, I think, and put the triple threat on night one and flip that to night two.
Yeah,
I don't think you want both women's title matches on the same night.
No.
We're not even in night two yet. So.
But that triple threat deserves. Honestly, I know you haven't read it yet, but I'm just imagining the triple threat for the women's title. That should go right on before Cena and Cody. You have back-to-back huge matches when it comes like that for your top titles for each.
Let's get into night two. Let's keep it moving. We got a lot to talk about tonight. So night two, I'll run it down real quick as it's being reported here on the Wikipedia. Io Sky, Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley is listed first. I kind of don't think that'll be first. I think you're right that would be the semi-main. I think, especially with those three and how well that match has kind of been built. Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez versus Bayley and Lyra Valkyria for the women's tag titles. AJ Styles versus Logan Paul.
I think that's what you're working with.
Yeah. Logan. Yeah, I agree. Yep. Or maybe this one. Intercontinental title 4-way, Braun Breaker, Penta, Finn Balor, and Dominic Mysterio. That could open.
Yeah.
Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre in a Sin City Street fight. And then last but not least, Cody Rhodes versus John Cena for the WWE Championship. Note, Randy Orton is not showed on there currently, but they're going to do something with Randy Orton to make up for his match with Kevin Owens that fell apart with Kevin Owens getting hurt. So I kind of got a feeling we might get Randy Orton and maybe one of the returning faces in a quick little match of some sort. That's my guess there. But that will be match 7 is whatever Randy Orton's doing. So, all right. So also go back to you. You brought up that women's triple threat. Yeah, I mean, I think that women's triple threat, Io, Bianca, and Rhea, that could be the match of the weekend. As far as this show goes, as far as WrestleMania's both nights, that's got a lot of damn potential, and I think there's a damn good chance that could be the Io Sky steals the show.
100%. 100%.
Get in here. What do you got to say?
And I want to just add to that. I think, low key, Io Sky has been doing the best promo and acting work with that whole feud. Now, of course, you got Bianca and Rhea going over top of each other and arguing and crying, going back and forth. And Io, I know her English is not the best. It can make it, but it's not the best. So you don't have her talking as much. But her facial reactions, her physical interactions within this whole feud, and making you guys realize I'm still the champion here. So if I leave out of here the champion, I'm going to be at top of my game, where it's like another big moment for her. And anytime that she's been in these matches, whether it's title matches, Money in the Bank matches, she has been epic with her moments and knows how to work in this ring, and she can go. So I don't want anybody to sleep on her just because she's not talking as much during this feud, but I think she's been doing a fantastic job holding her own with these segments that's been going on. But the match, I think, going back to what Crab said, that may be a sleeper, and I'm surprised I'm saying this, AJ Styles versus Logan Paul. If it's anybody that can work with anyone in the ring and make it a great match, it's AJ Styles. He's done it with Shane McMahon. He's done it with The Undertaker. Granted, it was a gimmick type match when that WrestleMania had to be, COVID, driven or whatever. But
COVID mania.
COVID mania. But AJ Styles is somebody that is legit, can work anybody in the ring. And I think if this is the time where Logan Paul wants to prove himself to be like, I'm a top tier wrestler, I'm an athlete, I'm gonna do this, you have to do it against AJ Styles. And AJ Styles, from what I'm reading, he's not going to have too much more manias after this, because he's getting close to that age of 50. And I think this is something that, if you're talking about a true passing of the torch, you could see if AJ is going to be ready to pass this to the torch. Not saying that Logan Paul is going to be the next AJ Styles, but to give that rub and appreciation over to him, saying, okay, I know you're a streamer. I know you're, not the full wrestler, but I'm going to make sure you work your way in this ring to make sure you are a wrestler. I'm very intrigued about that match. And I would not be surprised when you guys said it, if it opened the show. In regards to John Cena, Cody Rhodes, I just want it to be a good story. It doesn't have to be a great match. I just want it to be a good story.
Okay.
About AJ Styles and Logan Paul. One of my favorite matches in WCW all time is Regal versus Goldberg. it's not because it's the longest match or because there was anything over the line. It was because you had the veteran, technically sound,
Yes.
Lord Steven Regal
Yes.
versus this big gym rat from Oklahoma named Bill Goldberg. And the way that it played out, where you know that Regal could absolutely wrestle circles around him.
Mm-hmm.
And commentary was surprised. I'll never forget Heenan and Sabisco was just like, oh my God, I didn't know Goldberg had that in him. And it was like just a quick drop step or a reversal or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this was the first time that Goldberg, at least on TV, had been tested in a major way.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, after the fact, we realized, Goldberg is like, well, no, Regal took advantage of me and I hate him. And, this, all this other stuff too. This feels similar to that especially when you bring up that maybe Logan Paul is getting the rub and stuff like that. And I think that's kind of the thing. It's a lot of false positives with Logan Paul.
Yeah.
It's not because he's having great matches from a technical sense, from a mat wrestling perspective, but he has good dance partners.
Mm-hmm.
And for him to go out there and do that thing or get that spot in or, do that big jump or whatever that they're building towards, and it entertains the crowd, and that's the point. I feel that he's had good dance partners, and much like a musician working with a particular producer or an actor working with a particular director, Logan Paul has been very selective about who he works with to build these big matches at these big pay-per-views.
Good point.
And he's not just working with anybody. They're not just putting him with anybody. They're putting him with guys that punch well above his weight, that knows exactly what they're doing. If they need to take over, they will.
Yep.
Paul isn't green enough to be like, well, I don't know. No, he can make it through a match, but it's just an extra bit of hand-holding from a guy like AJ Styles that will take this match to the next level up. So I see what you're doing. It's a smart move to do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that for what comes out, and they've been consistent with the product, I think that's how you open the show. It's Vegas. It's Logan Paul. It's one of AJ Styles' last WrestleManias. And that's kind of what they've been doing. And if the formula works, then you run it till it doesn't.
Yeah, I think that's the move. I like the idea of that opening night too. I think that's a good spot for that. So let's wrap it up with this. Let's hit each night's main event and make a pick, since that's the big matches of the two. And Lorna's being really talk about the triple threat on the other side. So night one, Reigns, Punk, and Seth Rollins. Tell us who you got. What do you think happens there?
Seth Rollins wins and actually becomes a Paul Heyman guy.
Okay, a popular thought that's going around with many people. Crab, what do you think?
I think Seth Rollins wins because someone cost Roman the win.
Okay. I'm with y'all on Seth. Seth has put in the work in the last month of making himself kind of like, he was kind of the third wheel at first in this match, and now it's like, oh no, he's become the straw that stirs the drink in this match. He's made this match very intriguing. So I think it is Seth Rollins' match. I think he's going to remind a lot of people about who he is here. And I think just the wild card is if Heyman goes with him or not. And at this point, God, I don't know on that part. That part I'm not going to take a guess on yet, because I think it's become so many people are thinking he's going with Seth. And now it's like, they may flip a coin for the match, see who he goes with. I don't know. We'll see on that one. Night 2, Cody and John Cena for the title. You said you wanted a good story. It didn't need to be a good match. All right, Sellers, who do you think?
I've been talking on this back and forth, but I think Cody does retain. I just see some type of screwy finish where he does retain. The only reason why I know with Cena going full heel and things of that nature, I just don't see, if Cena is champion, him carrying a belt that long. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I think Cody does retain. I won't be surprised. Well, it's too early for a double switch as far as Cody becoming heel and Cena becoming face again or something like that. But I think that's too early. But I think Cody does retain.
Crab, I know we've talked about this scenario when Cena made the turn.
So you know what I'm going to say.
We're here.
You know what I'm going to say. Now that we're here, I can't back down now. I think The Rock calls Cody. I think that Cena, actually wins it. I think he keeps the belt until SummerSlam. Celis, to make your point, he doesn't have to have it a long time. He just needs to have it. He's his terroristic heel run throughout the summer between now and SummerSlam begins. He's the greatest of all time, literally, and because he would be such a monster heel, whoever faces him and beats him for the title, but I don't think they will because I think he's retiring with the belt. Whoever beats him for the title becomes the knight in shining armor. And whether that's the next John Cena in NXT, maybe I would love for that to be Carmelo Hayes or somebody like that. Further down the line as Cena in Cena's retirement match, that would be a hell of a passing of the torch. Or pick your pleasure, whoever you think it would be. But the point is that I don't see why they haven't been building this as the sympathetic, Cody babyface run, because Cena has been such a notorious heel that they gotta keep an up the ante, and that'll make you forget about whatever The Rock was doing that time that he did it. That'll make you forget about whatever Travis Scott was doing, whenever he did it. All of that will be forgiven if Cena wins, because now none of that makes sense if he doesn't. So, and then of course, when Cody wins on Sunday, you all y'all can say I told you so. But then where does Cody go from there? Like, why do we still have two belts? It just to me it just doesn't make sense for Cody to retain it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. We came this far with Cena. Cena's got to win on Sunday, and then we go from there. I assume Dwayne shows back up. I don't know if Travis Scott will be with him. Actually, well, wait, the night before.
I think Triple H said he was.
Yeah, because the night before, he'll be playing at Coachella on Saturday. So he could be there on Sunday. He's got to go from California over to Vegas. So
which is not far. 4-hour drive.
Not far at all. So it could be done. It can be done. So we can be there for Sunday night. So I think Cena's got to win it, and then we go from there. It's just a matter of then how long will the summer of Cena go, or if it will go to his retirement, like Crab's saying. I think both scenarios are possible, but I think we get a title change on Sunday. It's just a matter of how Cena's going to work this match, and that's what I'm curious about. The new John Cena attitude, how that's going to translate to him working a match since we haven't seen him in the ring. So there we go. All right. We went a little long in this first half, so let's take our mid-show break. When we come back, let's quickly talk about the NXT show, since Crab's shirt reminded me we got NXT Stand Deliver. And then from there, we'll talk about the stuff surrounding WrestleMania. We'll do that for the rest of the hour to get into some other stuff. So all kinds of exciting stuff going on here, folks. Stay with us, your Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. We'll be back right after this.
Looking to get your brand in front of people who eat, sleep, and breathe entertainment? Big Gold Belt Media is the place to be. We're all about reporting on movies, TV shows, conventions, and everything in between. And we want your brand to be a part of the action. Partnering with us means your sponsorships get featured right in the midst of our content. Plus, we're going to hype you up on all of our social media, connecting you with an audience that loves discovering new things from trusted voices in entertainment. We're easy to find. Just look for us on Big Gold Belt on all your social media platforms. Don't wait, reach out today, and let's start building something amazing together. Your spotlight is waiting here at Big Gold Belt Media, BigGoldBelt.com.
Thanks so much for being with us here tonight, folks, on the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. So we broke down WrestleMania in the first half of the show. Let's take a quick look at NXT Stand and Deliver. As Crab mentioned, this is going to be the afternoon show for us folks on the East Coast. It's going to be a 1 o'clock start time for us, and then 10 a.m. out in Vegas.
Wow.
They go to have like the breakfast start time out there for that show. So going to be interesting with all that. So let's see here. Let me run down the card first and see what we got listed here for the whole thing. We have Metaphor, Fatal Influence, Tatum Paxley and Gigi Dolan, and Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade in a fatal four-way for the women's tag titles as a pre-show match. This is the show of like multi-person matches. My God. A ladder match for the NXT Women's North American title. Zarya, Kalani Jordan, Sol Ruka, Izzy Dame, Lola Vice, and Thea Hale. Stephanie Vaquer, Julia, Jordan Grace, and Jada Parker in a fatal four-way for the NXT Women's Championship. Nathan Frazier and Axiom versus Tank Walker and Tank Ledger for the NXT Tag titles. Ricky Saints versus Ethan Page in a singles match for the North American Championship. 6-man tag match with the D'Angelo family taking on Dark State, the gang that's been invading NXT. And last but not least, triple threat match with Obafemi, Trick Williams, and Javon Evans for the NXT Championship. 7 matches there on that card. So that is going to be, that's going to be a stacked one. That's going to be a stacked one. Stellace, I'll go to you first. There's a lot of people on that show. Lots of people on that show.
It is a lot of people. Just for the pre-show, I'm going to start with the pre-show first. I hope Jakara doesn't mess up Last Legend in this match since I love Jakara so much.
Wait a minute.
Just want to put that out there.
Wait.
But this show will come down to one thing for me and one thing only. I think you have to pull the trigger, better words, than others, but let Javon Evans have his moment and win that title. I think this could be a good thing to spark up Javon Evans to make sure he is the new up-and-coming young face of this company in NXT. Well, it's part of WWE, of course, but you have to shoot him to the moon in 2025. I think definitely Javon Evans has shown the work that he can do with anybody in the ring. And I just love to see him just get a shot. Once again, even if this title reign is not long, I would just love him to see him have that moment in front of this live crowd, in front of this multiple of people from different areas coming to see the WrestleMania weekend. It would just be great to see. But I also think this is Trick Williams and possibly Obafemi's last match on NXT because I think both of them might get called up.
Okay. I can see that. Crab, what are you thinking?
I think the WWE match of the weekend is going to be Stephanie Vaquer versus Julia versus Jordan Grace versus Jada Parker.
Ooh.
I think
a stacked lineup.
Yeah, that's a hell of a match. Fatal 4-way for the women's title. I wish there were more elimination matches instead of fatal 4-way.
Yes.
I'm sick of 15-minute long matches where everybody just grabs each other's legs at the end. Give me an elimination match. Let the match
switch it up. Yeah,
switch it up. But that's my favorite match of any of the WWE product that I'm seeing so far. I think, and honestly, I mean, honest to God, NXT is putting on the best show out of the 3 premium live events.
Yeah.
Between night 1 of WrestleMania and night 2, there are no dead spots on the pay-per-view.
No.
Even the D'Angelo family and their 6-man match, the triple threat match for the NXT championships, Saints versus Ethan Page. Every match is either a multi-man match with a twist, like the ladder match for the Women's North American Championship, or the 4-way for the Women's Championship that could main event any other show they got.
Yep.
Could main event this show for all we know.
Exactly.
They don't mind putting the women on last.
Yeah, no problem with that whatsoever. But yeah, this is like top to bottom a solid show. 1 p.m. on a Saturday. Oof. But yeah, this is definitely one I'll be catching up with later.
Yeah, I think you might be right on that. That women's fatal 4-way is really interesting to me because Stephanie Vaquer just won those double titles.
Yeah.
Just gave up the North American title. Julia just came back. It's a very quick turnaround. Jordan Grace is hot as can be right now, and Lerner's Jada Parker is their one homegrown talent in that group from their system.
I don't know who wins that match.
Yeah, that one you could conceivably have any 4 of them win it, and at the same time I'm looking at it and thinking it's too early to take the title off Stephanie. But you could absolutely make any of them champion and it would work perfectly fine going forward.
Yep.
Very intriguing matchup. So
Yeah.
I know that NXT show is very interesting. We're going to do a quick rewind here before we talk about the rest of the weekend, because Sumo Pockets 34 on YouTube has sent us a question. And we're going to get this in here because he also sent $5 along with it.
Nice.
So
Thank you.
that's our deal. So, hey guys, can we get your thoughts on WWE Tag Team, Women's IC, and US titles not being defended on a 2-night show? Thanks for the content. So, yes, because the Lyra Valkyria is in the match with Bayley for the tag titles. Chelsea Green's nowhere to be seen. And I think the tag titles are on SmackDown the night before. Yeah, because
tomorrow. They fight tomorrow.
Yeah, right. Because they're kind of stretching things out with that and the Battle Royal on SmackDown, which they've been doing for a while. I think it's just, you know what? In my mind, it kind of is. This is kind of one of the issues with having so many damn titles is you can't fit all these damn titles into even a 2-night show, because there's too many belts. There really are too many belts in my mind. And I think it's a victim of what it is. I like, though, that the SmackDown tag titles are being defended at least over the course of the weekend. I do like the idea of stretching stuff into SmackDown on Friday to kind of, to work more stuff into the show. I like that they do the Battle Royal there. They don't take up time on the main show with the Andre Battle Royal anymore. So that leaves where Chelsea Green is. That's I think the big question, because she's been such a featured character and she's missing at the moment.
If I can add to it, I would say more so for the women's IC and the women's US titles, there's not enough consistent. It's talent, but not enough consistent stories of who you build against those current champions. So, like, take Chelsea Green, for example. How many times is she going to fight Michin, before it's somebody else that we got to build up? Now, I know Zelina is getting up there where she might be somebody that's contending, but you just don't want to rush a random match and not make it a big moment. So maybe for Backlash, or maybe for an upcoming a B-tier premium live event, that's when you might see some of those IC or those mid-card women's championships being defended. But this is what I think is going to happen with the WWE Tag Team. Now, we did mention, as well, you just mentioned, they're having something on SmackDown for a match. I won't be surprised if that match is ended early, because on a pre-show for night 1 or night 2, you might have some tag team turmoil, not necessarily a ladder match, where you have, let's say, 4 teams all in there together, and to see a tornado tag to see who becomes a champion on the pre-show. And I think that might be a good way to throw everybody in WrestleMania, or having a WrestleMania moment, but just doing it at the beginning of the show, because there was no pre-show matches announced. But I think that'd be a good way where you can have that on there.
Okay, I could see that. Crap, what are you thinking?
I think in general, I don't have a problem with it. Yes, to your point, it does kind of, we can see where the hierarchy of the titles, fall. But then that kind of like leads into my earlier question of, is this show enough? I feel like something's missing. We're only getting 7 matches a night, and obviously we don't know how long these matches are. The pre-taped, backstage stuff, and then of course you have the vignettes and packages. After that, the post-match shenanigans, because there's going to be some post-match shenanigans with Cody Rhodes and John Cena, and the other main event, triple threat main event as well. As far as these matches being missing, you do need something, a little bit of extra sauce for SmackDown. You need a little bit of extra sauce for Raw, the Raw after WrestleMania. So I don't mind a title not necessarily being defended because, we just have to have a title match because it's WrestleMania. Sure, but they could do it another place. But then that begs the question, well, if you have these other titles that are not being defended, why wouldn't you just sub it for a non-title match that's on the card?
Mm-hmm.
So do we need Rey Mysterio versus Starbucks Americano on the pay-per-view? I don't think so. I think that would be a decent pre-show match, or honestly, something good for SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre? Yes, I know it's the build-up and the blow-off to their feud, but why wouldn't that could close SmackDown?
Yeah.
SmackDown main event,
So versus and putting a title match in that spot. So I understand why they do why they're doing it, and I think it's also the consistency of not having the proper storyline to go into the pay-per-view as well. So they just don't want to throw in a fluff title match for no reason. But it's all booked. So why wouldn't you just book it this way?
Mm-hmm.
You know, why would you not book every title on the show like NXT did? You know, I don't think there's a title missing from their show. And there's 7 matches on that one, and it's a hideously stacked show. So it is a departure from the past, where every title that you can think of was defended at some point in the night that was WrestleMania, whether it was on Sunday Night Heat before or during the show itself. But you know, this is not what they do anymore. And now that the event has ballooned to 2 days, the Monday Night Raw after, the SmackDown before, we're talking WrestleMania realistically being a 4 consecutive day event. And they are not just trying to book 14 matches, they're trying to book 30 matches or 25 matches over the course of 4 days. And I think that some of those things could be a title match here and there that won't make it to the show.
Yeah. So there's, like I said, with multiple days of stuff, people are getting on shows. It's just a matter of what show you're getting on what day. So thanks for the question, Sumo Pockets 34. Appreciate you being with us here tonight on the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. So let's switch gears, because there's a lot more going on in Vegas than just WrestleMania. There are lots of shows, like I mentioned before coming on here. The Super Show was on. I was watching right before we came on the air, and I straight up saw Minoru Suzuki versus Butterbean with Dan Severn as referee. It was, I would describe it as a spectacle.
Jesus.
I'm not saying that anyone needs to go see it, but it was definitely a spectacle. It was definitely something that was hard to look away from, because it was just like, oh my God.
How old is Butterbean now? I got to look it up.
Yeah, he was he got out there, but he didn't even have gloves on. It was a sight. It was a sight. But
58.
Crab, you were looking at some of the stuff going on with all these other darn shows. I know there's like Joey Janela's Spring Break, of course.
Oh my God.
Bloodsport's happening later tonight with a lot of WWE people on the Bloodsport card tonight. That's going down. There's Dragon Gate earlier today. Or actually, no, that's coming up. Dragon Gate. Defy was earlier today. But
yeah, so
there's a lot of shit happening.
Yeah. And these times are, I'm going to give you the local time and the Eastern time. Ashay Wrestling out there in Las Vegas at the FSW Arena. That's 11 p.m. Pacific time, 2 a.m. on the East Coast. AJ Francis, Calvin Takeman, Rayhan Inteas, Papa Jace, Moses in a massive 5-man match. That looks a lot of fun. Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz versus Charity King and Daddy B looks a lot of fun. Team Darius Carter versus Team Darius Lockhart looks bananas. And then there's other stuff happening well into the morning. That was earlier today at 11. But yeah, you're right. You have the West Coast Pro had a show out there around 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. A lot of Japanese companies are making their way out, which is good to see. TNA is out there for Unbreakable.
I think later tonight. Yeah,
that show is actually happening at 6 p.m. Pacific, which is in about 15 minutes. So that's a thing. Melina's hosting the show, which starts about a half an hour. Prestige Wrestling we've talked about before, and then of course the big show is Game Changer doing Bloodsport. The big one for me, Natty Neidhart being on that show is one thing, but Natty versus Miyu Yamashita is, I don't want to say it's a dream match per se, but goddamn.
Something you never would think you'd see.
That's something that I never thought I would see. Period. Like a current WWE talent in any capacity, A, doing an indie show, B, doing an indie show that will be televised in some capacity on WrestleMania weekend. Damn. More of that, please. Pete Dunne versus Timothy Thatcher will be, if you've seen it once, you've seen it a million times, but goddamn, that's going to be fun. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Jonathan Gresham. That may be the match of the weekend. There's so much stuff happening. And that's just stuff today. There's a full slate of shows that are going through all tomorrow. Progress has a show that starts at 3 a.m. Eastern at the Palm.
3
midnight.
a.m.
Yeah, well, midnight out there.
Well, it's Vegas. The city does not sleep, so it is what it is.
So, and then then you're up early at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern for Tokyo Joshi Pro. They're having a show out there at the Palm. So, the only question is, will you have time to see what you want? Stardom is at 12 Pacific. Versus Pro is at 1:30. DDT is at 3. I mean, you just can't see it all. You will literally either A, go broke trying to see everything, or B, just got to leave during the middle of the show because you got to go.
We're probably at the point now where like you can't even pick shows anymore. You have to cherry pick specific matches that you just want to see. And be, I'm going to see this match on this show. As soon as that one's done, I'm leaving and I'm going across town to this show where I'll see 2 matches over here. And it's nuts. It's nuts.
A match that looks absolutely bananas to me is WrestleCore. I've not heard of this promotion before, but they're doing a show at 3 p.m. on tomorrow. And that is the Disco Ball Death Match between Casanova Valentine and Dark Sheik. Love both of them. Never seen a Disco Ball Death Match. I'll be damned if I don't watch that. Deadlock is having a show at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 Eastern. And I love Deadlock, but there's just so much going on. The whole night. I'm not even. And then of course SmackDown is live at 8 o'clock Eastern with their whole thing. And then there's Spring Break. Spring Break has a single elimination 20-man match, 20-person match called the Clusterfuck. And you're absolutely right. I don't know how that match is going to end. I don't even know how it's going to start, but my God. At Spring Break on Friday, you have a no-rope barbed wire match between Joey Janela and Sabu.
Sabu's retirement.
Right, which is bananas. And then you have Mask versus Career, Atticus Cougar versus Fuego del Sur, and I love Fuego. And then, of course, you have Matt Tremont versus Minoru Suzuki, which will hit hard. Megan Bain is on the show. Zack Sabre Jr. is working like his 4th match in 3 days at this show. And this is just the stuff that catches my eye. There will always be something that, who knows. And then there is the Future Stars of Wrestling, which is the local promotion out there in Vegas. They're having a WWE ID Championship tournament at the FSW Arena, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Pacific, 11:30 p.m. Eastern. That's Friday night. So, hot damn. You not only are getting literally everyone involved, but now you have the WWE ID product out there. You have so many different people from different companies, from WWE itself, from AEW, big names on the indie scene. There's just so much wrestling. And I got to give credit to Voices of Wrestling, voicesofwrestling.com. I'm reading from their list, and they have everything, mapped out, links to tickets and all that stuff. So, I'll link this on our social media channels a little bit later. But hot damn, ever since Tuesday, stuff started happening. Big shows on Wednesday, big shows on Thursday, major shows on Friday. Saturday is WrestleMania Night 1. Sunday is Night 2. And then, of course, you have the Raw after. It's like 6 consecutive days of wrestling out there in Vegas. And that's why you go to WrestleMania. And I'll say this: if you're out there in Vegas for wrestling for WrestleMania, cool. Also be aware that I believe that the NHL has set the schedule for the playoffs. And guess who has a home game during WrestleMania weekend?
They got to tear down and set back up.
Right. So that's going to go down. The Golden Knights are going to be out there this weekend. They have a game 7 p.m. on Sunday.
Playoffs.
Against Mania. Perfect timing.
Yep, at T-Mobile Arena. So And it's not just the fact that they're having a playoff home game in Vegas during WrestleMania. It's the fact that there's going to be thousands of people at the little plaza that's in front of the arena that have nothing to do with wrestling.
Yeah.
So similarly to how the Capitals are having a thing here where thousands of people are going to go and watch the game, watch parties all over the city. But, the Golden Knights, who are hideously popular out there in Vegas.
Oh, yes.
They're going to be having a game, their first game of the season versus Minnesota, of the playoffs rather, versus Minnesota. So reserve your Ubers, tip heavily, get people's numbers, because it will be tough moving around the city between playoff hockey and all of the wrestling events. Get to the airport early. Harry Reid is not a large airport. And also sunscreen, hydrate, because it's still Vegas.
Yes.
So good luck out there if you're going.
You are in the desert. You are in the desert.
Absolutely.
My God. Yeah, it's going to be a whirlwind of a weekend, and we're not even there. So the folks are out. I feel for the folks that are there, because Lord knows I know how the story goes. Every darn time I hear about people going to Vegas, people going to WrestleMania, they come back and they always end up sick. The WrestleMania flu is always the thing that happens.
Oh, the real battle will be the fans versus COVID. That will be. I don't know what the line is on DraftKings, but that's where you want to put your money.
That's like a ladder match right there.
Exactly.
Oh my God. There we go. Well, geez, we've broke down most I think all the big stuff for this weekend. I mean, there's too much to go into. I mean, we could easily do another hour just breaking down like satellite cards of all these
the stuff is out of this world.
Yeah, I did see the GCW WWE ID show last night, which was the first show of the collective, and it was interesting in the respect of seeing a WWE ID show that was not the Evolve show on Tubi. That was those folks on the collective on a totally different show in Vegas, WrestleMania weekend in the GCW ring. And pretty much the only thing I'll really say about that show is kind of over, they're doing a double elimination tournament. So no one's completely out because they lost last night. But God, it was drilled over your head hard as could be that Swipe Right and Zeta Steel are the top stars of that brand. And they are the top prospects of WWE ID, and they are all over that damn show. So they are all in on Swipe Right and Zeta Steel. Not surprising, but it's just you could not watch that show and come away with any other message. It was just like, oh, these are the top priorities here.
So then I wonder, obviously in the past, WrestleMania has been a great marketing promotion for talent in general.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's out there. There aren't too many. There are a bunch of names that I don't know as I'm looking through the different lists, but there's so many more that I do know that are just not on TV or they're on an indie show or whatever. Point is that I wonder if we're going to see any new faces come after this WWE, the ID involvement. Gabe has got to be out there. That the handlers have got to be out there looking for talent, looking, to get their feelers out there. I wonder if we see, what that looks like after the fact. That we may have some new talent.
Want a little recruiting drive, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh, there might be tryouts happening in our gym somewhere this weekend. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, that's how they normally do things. Is they have some tryouts somewhere while they're out there for the week. Since they've been out there, Lord knows they were building the stage last weekend, so they've had people in town. So I'm sure they have a ring set up somewhere in a ballroom that they just been running through stuff on that they can do some tryouts.
Absolutely, and that has nothing to do with like the fan experience and all that stuff too, where they were doing shows from. So, Hall of Fame we haven't talked about.
Hall of Fame is gonna be like something like 1 a.m. out here. Out there it's at 10. So
oh my God.
It's gonna be Hall of Fame is gonna be late, but I'm excited to see Lex Luger go. That's my big takeaway of the Hall of Fame is want to see Happy Luger is going to get recognized.
Who has that? Is that live?
It's going to be
Peacock
on. I'm sure it'll be on Peacock.
Peacock,
yeah. I'm pretty sure. So it'll be on there live. And I'm sure it'll be on demand the next morning, which is that'll be the way I'm saying. I'm not staying up in the middle of the night.
I'm gonna probably have to watch it.
Watch that before NXT the next morning.
Yeah,
how I figure it'll go down. So, All right. Well, we are at our hour. So
Yep.
this has been a packed show. So, folks, we are glad you've been here with us this week for the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast each and every Thursday night, 8 p.m., streaming live right here on X, on YouTube, where our buddy earlier was, I got to find him again here, Sumo Pockets 34 checked in from YouTube with his question. Thank you so much for checking in tonight, Sumo Pockets 34. Also over on Twitch, we are streaming live each and every Thursday night, 8 p.m. when you want to check us out for the live show. After that, the show lives on in video form on YouTube, so you can watch it on demand later. And it also lives on as a podcast, available on all podcast platforms. So we got you covered. Whichever way you want to enjoy the show, Big Gold Belt Media has it for you. On social media, it's at Big Gold Belt across the board. So whether X, Instagram, Blue Sky, all your platforms, at Big Gold Belt is where you can find us. And on the web, BigGoldBelt.com is the home of Big Gold Belt Media, wrestling, movies, comics, and more. We always finish up with something that's not wrestling. I know this is going to be a packed weekend. It might be hard to fit something in. It's not wrestling, but Crab ourselves, whoever wants to jump in here, what you guys a recommendation outside of the wrestling world on a packed wrestling weekend?
I gotta go see Sinners at some point this weekend. I gotta go see it.
I heard people talking about Sinners. Yeah, you're the second person I've heard mention that today.
Yep.
Yeah. Sinners is the big movie this weekend. I believe you have now I was going to say The Accountant, but that's next weekend. You also have playoff basketball going on. Yep. You have playoff hockey going on.
Yep.
Baseball, is ending, April, sooner than later. And of course, Stephanie McMahon, greatest woman wrestler of all time, has just debuted her podcast called What's Your Story? You can find that on YouTube or Apple, Spotify. Her first guest is Dana White.
Oof. Oh boy.
Okay. But it's good to see and hear from one legend to Dana White. But that's cool. And then there's a couple other movies that are kind of smaller that I can't really remember right now. But Sinners is definitely the big one. See it in IMAX. That's what Ryan Coogler shot it on. So if you want the biggest experience possible, that would be your move to make.
There you go.
And also one thing too, there's a lot of wrestling happening. Let's just put it out there. Hope nobody gets injured this weekend.
Yeah, everyone have a good weekend. Take it easy. Don't go too damn. Just because it's WrestleMania weekend, and everyone likes to show out WrestleMania weekend. Don't go too damn. Come on.
Also, last thing.
Yeah.
Before you push the button, Roman Reigns did an interview with Vanity Fair before. It's because WrestleMania, everybody's doing PR. It's a decent read if you like Roman. He talks about how long he wants to retire, what his exit strategy looks like, and a lot of stuff. You could probably guess if you know what the family's been doing after WWE, but it's an interesting read considering that the time is the clock has started on Roman Reigns' WWE in-ring career.
Yes, indeed. That's been clear for some time because Lord knows the man has 5 kids. He's been around a long time. So yes, that is lots of people have been talking about it in that interview today for lots of different reasons. So definitely check that out, folks, if you're interested in finding out more about your tribal chief, Roman Reigns. But this is it. It's WrestleMania weekend. We are here. The time has come. So we will be back next Thursday to unpack it all and see where we are at in the wrestling world. Lord knows by then we'll have had the Raw after Mania too. So next Thursday will be a very packed show, just like it was this week. But repeat what Crab said earlier. If you're out there this weekend, hydrate, sunscreen, hydrate, repeat again. And the rest of y'all just take it easy. Don't go too crazy this weekend. And we'll see you back here next week at 8 p.m. Thanks for being with us, folks. Enjoy WrestleMania, and we will talk to you later.
All I really need